my job away. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Or good afternoon, depending on where you are. This is Lee and Paul from coupledom.com doing relationship rehab.
Yes.
We've been doing this for a while now.
Yeah.
Like 2.5 years?
Yeah. Somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
I was about to say 3, but 2.5 works.
Because he says things like that.
I do. I exaggerate everything.
Willy-nilly man.
Yep.
For those of you who've never watched the show, Paul and I have been married for a long time.
At this point, we don't even tell people how long. It's just a long time. Some general long amounts of time.
Over 20 years. How's that?
Yes.
Over 20 years. So, been married for over 20 years. You can see that keeps it nice and general and
That's
not
right.
dated.
Yeah. We don't have to keep changing like statuses every year and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And about us's.
Yeah.
About we's.
Yeah, we had done our About Us for our blog 3 years ago.
No.
What?
That's a dog peeing in the background.
Did you have to say it?
Sorry.
Anyway, so
yeah, sorry. Our status.
I'm like thrown off now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we never changed it.
Yeah.
So realized, hey, no, we haven't been married 20 years. We've been married 23 years now. So what's going on? Last week we didn't do a show. We were vacationing with our kids. Our daughter is on spring break right now, which means that we're all on spring break, even though the boys aren't on spring break. Kind of would be not fair to, hey, you got a break, why don't you just come home and be part of our routine? So we traveled in California. That's what we did. And the kids hadn't seen the, California as much as, of course, we had, because we're from here. So enjoyed the aquarium and...
Went up north.
Yes, we went north. We're Southern California people, and we went north. And we went to the Monterey Aquarium, and we went to San Francisco and Modesto.
Yay! Modesto.
Not to diss anything,
No.
but
If any of our viewers are from Modesto, I'm sorry.
ain't much there, is there?
Yeah.
What we called it was the Monsters and Aliens tour.
Yes.
Monsters vs. Aliens tour.
Yeah.
Because if
We
you've
saw
seen the movie, Ginormica is from Modesto.
Yeah. Yeah. And she ends up in San Francisco at one point, and yeah.
And of course, if you don't know, then this means nothing to you.
Right.
We thought it was very clever. And the kids thought, oh my God, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's the only thing that they knew about Northern California.
Yeah. So yeah, ate a lot. Well, let's see. Went to the sourdough factory in San Francisco, and let's just say our youngest had a ball.
Oh yeah.
And thought he didn't have to eat any kind of protein.
Yeah.
Through the
I don't
whole
think
trip.
he had any protein for 3 days, except maybe whatever's in butter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's vacation. Don't judge us.
Right. They didn't eat whatever.
He was a happy little man.
Oh God, yeah.
Happy, happy, happy.
Yeah, we have pictures of him with bread, well, a croissant in one hand and a sourdough bread in the other.
Yeah.
And just chowing
His eyes rolling back.
Yeah.
And
He likes his bread.
He likes bread. Yeah.
Vacation.
It's a smart
Always a good
vacation.
day.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yes.
We got back from vacation and I'm exhausted.
And we have been. I mean, we got back
Sucks.
Tuesday and just do not have any energy.
See? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there wouldn't have been a show this morning had I not been this much responsible.
Yeah.
Because this one's saying, what do you think about the show? And I'm like, no, we got to do the show. And
Anytime that I do, I make it into a question.
yeah.
Are we having a show today? Please say no. Please say no.
And it has to be my call because, I'm the president of this venture.
Yes, and I have one foot in the bed still.
Yeah.
Or one butt cheek, whatever you want to.
You didn't have to say that.
I did.
No, you didn't.
Why would I have a foot in the bed? It's a cuddly butt cheek. That's the part that was in the bed.
No, it wasn't. You were outside of the bed. I jumped out of the bed before you got into the bed. Had I stayed in the bed and he got into the bed, all bets were off. All bets were off. So, anything else going on? No. Next week's show, in case you're not going to make it to the end of this show, which shame on you, it's going to be about anger and how to deal with it.
Anger?
Anger!
God. Oh.
That's how we express our anger.
Yeah.
No? Yes?
Works for me.
Okay. But this week's show, we're talking about homosexuality, suicide, and heteronormativity. And it's like, wow, that's a really just, that's a heavy topic. It is a heavy topic.
Mm-hmm.
It's a heavy topic because there's just not enough known about it. And no one's really talking about why or the how to force. Everybody's just in shock that we have to deal with any of it. And it's been coming for a long time. You know, there's this wave of stuff coming. And it's just going to get worse before it gets better if things don't change. If people don't change how they see things. So consider this a primer. Your education, your Homo 101, to understand why it is that all this is going on. You know, because homosexuality has been around since the beginning of time. Mm-hmm. Okay, a lot of historians even look at the apostles and are saying that certain apostles were gay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And, you know, we think, oh, that's really funny. How would they know? It's like, you know, it's funny what they do know. It's not really, I mean, these are historical people. You know, and we know that Nero was gay, and we know that certain czars were gay. Mm-hmm. We know these things. Right. This is known. You know, from their behaviors, from documents that were written. This is known. So that homosexuality is a big deal now. It's only a big deal because people have been ignoring it for millennia. Ignoring it and pushing it to the side for a millennia.
Yeah, somebody has decided to make it a big deal now.
Yeah. It's a big deal now because more and more people are understanding that this is not something abnormal. Mm-hmm. And as more and more people get that, the people who want to keep it abnormal are getting scared. That's why it's becoming a big deal. You know, did it become a really, really big deal when, in the 80s, when AIDS came into play? HIV and AIDS? No. What happened was, oh, you bad gay people, you brought this horrible disease upon us, and left it at that.
Yeah, wasn't a big political deal.
Yeah, I mean, no gay rights were created from it. In fact, on the contrary, what happened was gays were never allowed to donate blood anymore.
Right.
And, you know, and it
definitely segregated.
It segregated the communities.
Yes.
You know, that AIDS became a gay issue, not a human issue. Mm-hmm. So here we are 30 years later, and now these people want rights. How dare they? You know, and people are getting upset. Well, it's because we're breaking, you know, we're breaking the rules here. Mm-hmm. Uh-oh.
And an otter.
Sleeping. The otter?
I
heard they said otter.
It's an otter.
Okay.
So our daughter has awoken. If you walk over here, you're on camera. Okay.
So anyway, so let's just start with the basics. What is homosexuality? Mm-hmm. Homosexuality is an attraction to the same sex.
Yeah.
Period. There's nothing else to that. You know, we're talking about sexuality. And when we talk about sexuality, most people get stuck on the first three letters. Mm-hmm. And we're not talking about sex. We're not talking about penetration. We're not talking about orgasm. We're talking about sexuality.
Right.
Sexuality
Big difference.
is not sex.
Right.
In fact, people can identify with a certain sexuality and never have sex.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've actually read things about priests who identify themselves as homosexual, who've never done anything.
Right.
And, you know, there's no reason for them to come out as homosexual,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and say these things if it's not the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you know, people are like, oh, well, those are the ones molesting the kids. Not so.
That's also not so, right?
Not so.
That is one of those.
That is one of those biggest fallacies that heterosexual Christians have thrown out there.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, the ones who are molesting our kids are homosexuals. And that's not true.
No.
90-something% of, well, it's 92% of all child molesters are self-identify as heterosexual.
Right.
Something like 40-something% of those people are married. Mm-hmm. Okay? So, I digress. Because this kind of stuff, you know, it's like, it always drives me crazy when people throw those things out to me, because I worked with child molesters for a very long time, but it seemed like forever. Good 10, 15 years. Not 10 years. 10 years of solid, I work with child molester kind of thing. And not once in those 10 years, not one time in those 10 years did I meet a child molester, a predator, a sex offender, as we called them back then, that was gay.
Mm-hmm.
In 10 years. I had thousands of clients. Not one was gay. Not one identified themselves as their sexuality being homosexual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that is definitely one of those. That's a myth. You know, that is a lie, depending on how you want to look at it.
No, it's a spin. It's what it is. It's like, okay, why do then heterosexual men molest little boys? Well, usually that has to do with the fact that they were molested as little boys by men.
Right, and that's a whole different.
And that's a completely different thing. Once again, has nothing to do with sex.
Right. Yeah.
Actually, that has more to do with sex and not
sexuality.
sexuality.
Has nothing to do with sexuality.
That has nothing to do with sexuality. That has to do with perverted sex.
Right.
Perverted sex has nothing to do, nothing, or as we like to call the paraphilias, have nothing to do with sexuality.
Oh, it's like
fetishes and you know, sex with animals and all these other weird, what we consider in the psych field as aberrant behavior, has nothing to do with the fluidity of what sexuality is.
Well, that's like if you've ever seen that video, the African, the consul, one of the African consuls talking about homosexuality.
Oh, the Ugandan dipshit.
It's Uganda? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And talking about how...
they eat the poo-poo.
They eat the poo-poo.
Have you ever seen that one?
Yeah. See, that...
The guy just focuses completely, totally on the act of rimming. Of two gay men rimming each other. So that's all he focuses on, as if this is all they do, and talks about how they basically eat caca.
Yes. And again, one that is totally focused on sex, and not only that, but is focused on
one act in the sex act.
Yes. And it's not even necessarily a common sex act,
right?
The eating the poo-poo and that kind of stuff.
That's all he talks about. I mean, you really, if you have a chance, look him up.
Fetish.
Yeah, look him up, because you watch it and his audience is just like, you know, because he shows videos of it. Like, the guy's got like a whole library of video of this, and he's showing the people this, and he's like, oh, and eating the poo-poo. You have to watch it, because that's the kind of crazy that's out there. That's the propaganda that's out there. Focusing on this one sex. It's kind of like focusing on a heterosexual couple and all they do is oral. And they let it be freaky or no, even better, they have a foot fetish. And that's what heterosexual couples do. You know, he sucks on her toes and she puts chocolate on his feet. I don't know. You know, that's all that heterosexual couples do. And quite frankly, I don't know of any heterosexual couple doing that. But in certain, you know, strata of society, yeah, they do. Two consenting adults, people. Do I consider that normal? For me, no. Right?
I didn't realize chocolate could be involved, though. I mean, yeah, chocolate. I like chocolate.
Yes, we know you're doing chocolate, honey. Okay, so sexuality is something that's fluid. You know, when you look at little kids, you know, before we have tainted them with societal, for use of a better word, bullshit, and, you know, cultural beliefs and our own hang-ups. They're normal. I mean, they're untainted. They go through life just feeling, okay? And we see this when the kids go to school, and you know, and they say things like, "Oh, you know, Jimmy's my best friend, and I love him so much." Well, if your little boy says that to you, if you have a hang-up, you're gonna go, "Well, no, he's just your friend, right? He's just your," and you just like freak on
out.
him. And the kid's like, "No, yeah, whatever." You make it about sex when he's just talking about how he feels. Okay? And we have this need of curbing this for fear. Now, as the kid grows up, you know, all he knows is that it's bad. It's bad to feel for Jimmy. And that it's better to punch Jimmy because that's more accepted than it is to feel affection and love for them. Now, does that mean that your son is gay? No. What it meant is that your son was feeling, and how lovely it is for people to feel. Well, no, we've already just made it kind of gross and made it about them like hooking up, you know, behind the school. And that's really sad. You know, it has nothing to do with it. You know, little kids hold hands. And
they hug.
And they hug and stuff like that. And we're the ones, the adults are the ones that stop that. It's not that kids grow out of it. We stop it. We stop it with our stares. We stop it with what we say. We stop it by saying, "Okay, that's enough." The kids get the message.
You see, it's okay. I'm going to bring this actually all the way back to learning language, because one of the things that, as when I was first a parent, that I learned about that I found fascinating, was that you don't really teach a kid a word. What happens is that they make a sound, and you associate the word with that sound. So they go, "Ma," and you go, "They said mommy." And it's not the other way around.
Right. Understand that, yeah. When we come to, just to give you a little background, unless you don't know, kids come up with sound phonemes, and it is universal throughout the whole world. Okay? They come up with the same sound phonemes every single time.
They make the noise.
They make the noise. So the first noises they're going to make are the da-da-da-da-da-da noise. Because it feels neat in their mouth. Not because they love their daddies. And then, I just have to point that out. And then, you know, it's like the process is for them to go, they do the pa-pa-pa-pa-pa, na-da-da-da-da-da, ma-ma-ma-ma-ma-ma. And then we're the ones that create words from that.
Right.
And that's all over the world. I mean, that's a kid in China, that's a kid here in California, that's a kid everywhere. So, go ahead.
So, we're the one who assigned that. Well, it works the same way with really everything, including sexuality. What's happening is, or sex, to sexuality is we're the ones who are assigning that sexness to a behavior. So the kid hugs, and we say, "Oh, that's a sexual hug."
Right.
We're
the ones that pervert it.
Right.
It could be something very natural and very beautiful, very spontaneous, and we're the ones perverting it. It's kind of like a married man looking at his wife hugging a man.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say that they're at a funeral, and she hugs the man, consoling him, and the married guy says, "You were flirting with him. You were rubbing up on him." Sexual, I know this because this is what kind of shit my dad would do to my mom, or still does. We're perverting something that has nothing to do with sex.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in the mind of the pervert, not in the act. Okay?
I mean, we even look at, there's people in Europe where the guys hold, or places in Europe where the guys hold hands.
Yeah.
And, for a good chunk of Americans, we look at that and immediately take that into sex.
Yeah. I'm not saying that's all of them are just platonic, but in those cases, most of them are. Guys in Europe wearing their man purses immediately make them gay.
Right.
It's like, because you have a man purse, you like sucking dick.
Yeah.
It's like A plus B equals sucking dick. Period. So then understand, that's in our minds.
Yes.
That's not reality. Just because we think it doesn't make it so.
I wish that was the power.
I know,
that
seriously.
That'd be something different.
That would be very cool.
Yeah, but no,
right.
I can't really will things into reality in the way that I would like to, at least.
So now we've set up the premise, sexuality and sex. Here's the problem we have with sex. Sex feels good.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter who you're doing it with.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'll say it again. Sex feels good. It doesn't really matter who you're doing it with. If you look at things like situational homosexuality, like prisons and stuff like that, that is pure sex. That is your libido on overdrive. You don't have access to what you would like as a sex partner, so you close your eyes and pretend you're doing it with somebody else. Mm-hmm. And people do all sorts of things when they're put in positions where they can't have what they want. Okay? So if they're in prison, yeah, they'll do that because they want to have sex.
Right.
And you're already dealing with a population that really doesn't understand boundaries to start with because they're criminals. So that becomes an easy thing. Okay? Does that make them gay? No. Absolutely not. Most guys who leave prison don't go back to that. Don't ever try it again.
Yeah.
They identify themselves as straight. They were just having sex.
Right.
Even they understand it. Even with their limited intelligence, they understand the difference between their sexuality and sex.
Right.
Okay? And that goes for like experimentation and all that stuff. Sex feels good. Period. There's no, oh, let's throw this into the mix and oh my God, God's going to condemn you. Sex was created to feel good. That's it. We could make it a religious thing. We could say, thank you, God, for making sex feel good.
Right.
But other than the inherent fact that sex feels good, there's really no, I can't think of any. I mean, if you're going to start throwing Bible verses at me, then I just got to keep coming back with, but it still feels good.
Yes, right. Yes, I don't know of any Bible verses to say,
it does not feel good.
It does not feel good. If it feels good, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So, sexuality is not a fixed point.
No.
Okay? It's something that's fluid. Mm-hmm. When you're younger, it's more fluid than when you're older. Okay? Sexuality is in the eye of the beholder. If I lock eyes with a woman and fall in love with a woman, then I can identify myself as gay if I want to. If I want to.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, this is definitely one of those. Um, is it? Are you born gay? Is it genetic, or is it cultural? You make a choice. The answer, of course, is yes to both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are many
Right.
gay people who choose to live straight lives. There's many straight people who live gay lives.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've met I don't know how many women who break up a relationship and then they start dating a woman and say they're in love.
Yeah.
Is it about the sex? No. See, but they see that's you know there's a certain part of that there that you have to look at that you know sex does feel good, and in cases of women, you know, this plays a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your mind is a big part of sex. So if you're not really into, you know, the sex that women have, then then that could be a problem. Just saying.
Yeah.
Anyway, um, so anyway, young, you're unpolluted. Okay, so what's the big deal about keeping kids straight? It's called heteronormativity. Okay? It's the basic idea that heterosexuality is normal and anything other than heterosexuality is aberrant. Okay? Now, if you actually have been reading a couple of them today, no, not today, Wednesday's post was specifically about what's normal.
Mm-hmm.
And not necessarily about sex, but in general, what is normal.
Right. The definition of normal.
And, you know, the definition of normal is what?
It's mathematical. Normal is a statistical function.
Yeah, normal is an average. Normal is the norm,
Mm-hmm.
the mean, the what most people do.
Right.
Okay? And yes, most people are heterosexual.
Mm-hmm.
Identify themselves as heterosexual. However, you know, sexuality is on what we call a bell curve. You know, there's the less kinds of sex here, the more in the middle. So if you look at it in terms of like when they do the line, they count up. So let's say there's 10 homosexuals on this side, 100 homosexuals in the middle, no, heterosexuals in the middle, and 10 really
Right. Uber-sexual.
uber-sexual people on the other side.
Yes.
It does. What would be on the other side of homosexual? Do you think it's going to be heterosexual? No. Usually, what it is somebody like pansexual or something on the other side. You know what pansexual means? Everything.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's from Torchwood, isn't it? That's not a real term. They coined that word.
Really?
Pansexual?
Yeah.
It would be bisexual, but we only have two sexes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess pansexual, yes. Yeah.
See?
That is true. Yeah.
He's so cute.
You should call it trisexual. Try anything.
Yeah, pretty much. So.
But the whole idea is that just because something is normal doesn't make it right.
Right.
It doesn't make it wrong either.
Right.
It's not related. Normal, the word normal, the definition of normal, is completely unrelated to any moral direction.
Right.
You know, right, wrong, good, bad. It has nothing to do with that. So to say that it's normal to be heterosexual means nothing as far as whether it's right, wrong, good, bad, sideways, or what.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, you know, to say that something is normal is to inherently say that something is abnormal.
Mm-hmm.
The absence of normalcy is abnormal.
Right. Abnormal is those two little ends at the side.
No.
Mathematically.
Yeah, but even that doesn't make any sense because since if you go through a normal, and when I say normal, most of us go through it, sexual awakening.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. People will have feelings throughout their youth, confused feelings.
Right.
You know, I'm attracted to this person, I'm attracted to this person. And there's a certain fluidity to it. It's like, what does it mean?
And that is both
and
normal and healthy.
Right.
See, those are two separate categories.
But attraction isn't necessarily sex.
Right.
Once again, don't confuse the two.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you feel an attraction and a closeness to somebody doesn't necessarily mean you want to have sex with them.
Right.
So, when people, but since you're teenagers and your hormones are all screwed up, you don't know the difference. There's a big difference between, God, I really love you, and God, I really love you a lot. So they confuse the two terms. And why is that? Because as a society, we keep confusing attraction and sex.
Mm-hmm.
You could feel a connection to somebody, but that doesn't mean that you want to have sex with them.
Yeah.
But since we've confused all of that stuff and made everything about sex, we can't be human beings anymore. We have to be sexual beings constantly.
Which, okay, something I've been thinking about, because we're going to be writing about it. We haven't even written about this yet. But I was thinking, we know that people get stuck at certain developmental ages,
Yes.
especially if there's trauma and things of
Yes.
that sort. So a typical place for males to get stuck would be that kind of
pubescent time.
Yeah, pubescent time. Very traumatic. That's also a time where controlling our libido is difficult. We get this mentality of, I'll do anything for sex. It's and you see it in movies.
And understand that that's cultural.
Okay.
That's It's like the okay. Yes, emotionally, physically, you are what we would call, on sexual overdrive.
Right.
Physically. Because you've got all the testosterone coursing through you. You've got your penis that's doing things that without your knowledge, and erections every 5 seconds and all that stuff.
Right.
But then you add on top of it, every movie that you're going to watch is about sexual awakening, and you got to get some.
Right.
And if you don't get some, you're a pussy.
Right.
And if you don't get
Especially
some,
for males.
you're gay.
Yeah.
And if you don't get some, what do you mean you're a virgin and you're 16 years old? We gotta deal with that. And it's all this hounding of the sex. And it's got to be, you better do it, because if you're not, you're abnormal.
Right.
You're aberrant. You are out of society. That's what makes it worse.
Yes. Right. So add that piece of trauma to it now.
Yeah.
And stunt the growth at that point.
Yeah.
Now you have stunted the person, the male in this case. You've stunted the male at that point where their belief system is that I don't have control of my libido. I don't have control of my sex. I don't have control of my penis.
Now, if you throw in religion into the mix, that's what they teach men all the time.
Right.
That there is no other time for a man. That
exactly.
You are, okay. Because of, let's go all the way back. Religion believes that man fell because Adam was too weak around Eve.
Right.
Okay? That basically, because she was all naked and stuff, and she said, here, take a bite of the apple, he couldn't say no. Yeah. Because he's a man. And now that is a belief in our culture, that men can't say no. And women are the temptresses.
Right.
Okay? So if you're walking around with a hard-on 24/7, which is what Christian theology teaches man is, that man has no control over this. The poor guy is led around by his dick.
Right.
Then all men are going to get stunted at that age.
All right. So now, looking at how this relates to this warped concept of homosexuality, is that it's the women's job to basically be the flag bearers for virtue. You've removed women from the equation, so all anybody's going to do is put their penis wherever they can, over and over and over again, as often as possible.
Which is right here.
Yes.
Not this hand.
No.
That's his left hand. Nah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, no, this is a dangerous hand. I'm very right-handed with everything. Anyhow.
Now you know.
Yes, I have no idea what we're talking about now. So yeah, it leads to this misconception, this misguided belief that every homosexual is out there just having sex for pure sex sake. It has nothing to do. Again,
and it actually, I would say that that's a twofold thing. Mm-hmm. One, I think that yeah, there are homosexuals that are out there just getting laid as often as possible.
Oh, yeah. There's heterosexuals doing that, too.
And there's heterosexuals doing that, too. If you haven't seen Jersey Shore or anything like that, then obviously you've missed the concept. But homosexuals are famous for that. Mm-hmm. You know, that's one of their claim to fame is that all they're doing is having sex. Now, there's a certain envy involved in this whole hunt on homosexuality that men have, is that, wow, they don't have to deal with women. And specifically we're going to talk about the men stuff. Mm-hmm. Because when they talk about when you know, yes, they are also condemning lesbians, but the reality is that they're focusing on men.
Mm-hmm. I mean, let's be real.
Because the men, because the old white Christian men, they're the ones making the rules.
Yeah.
Okay? So they're focusing on men, because that's what disgusts them, and I put that in quotation marks, the most. Mm-hmm. Because they think that they've kind of like bypassed all the normal things, you know, having to get married and all that. There's a certain amount of envy that trickles through everything that they do.
I mean, there is definitely more acceptance of lesbian sex than, you know, man-on-man gay sex. And
we're not saying that it's, you know, in general, yes, you know, gay women get discriminated just as much and all that. Yeah. There's a certain acceptance about the gay sex that lesbians have. Right. So they don't focus on that as much as it is that it's two women together.
And it's warped. I mean,
in the 1800s,
the belief system is definitely a warped
in the Victorian era, specifically here in the United States, it was encouraged. Mm-hmm. There was actually encouragement in the upper echelons of society so that you don't lose your virginity to go ahead and be with another woman. Right. That was actually encouraged.
And our warped belief now is that you can be a lesbian and you can do your lesbian sex thing, and the moment that a good penis comes into play, it'll fix it. That's really that mentality.
That's why old Christian men really don't focus on you guys that much.
Right.
Because
they can fix you.
Because they can fix you.
Yeah. You just need a good...
It's like a mechanic.
Right, exactly.
You just haven't met the right one yet. Mm-hmm. Once you do, you just want to have babies and, you know, stuff like that.
In case anybody is just tuning in, we're being serious, but we're being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Much of our...
Please, no.
Right.
Yeah.
These are some warped beliefs.
Yeah. And because of all these warped beliefs, because of all this nastiness and this heteronormativity and this idea that we all have to be straight, okay? We have to walk straight, you know, think straight, fuck straight, because if we don't, we're gonna be chastised. We're gonna have our rights limited because they don't like different. We don't like different. That's society, people. That's not, and really that's mostly American society. So if you're watching this in Europe, I'm mostly not talking about you guys. I'm talking about this antiquated 50s belief that it used to be better and there weren't any homosexuals in the 50s. Okay?
Right.
Now,
and there also weren't any black people. And
yeah, exactly. They knew their place, and that was definitely not in the White House. So,
Yes, and smart women
Yeah,
didn't
and
exist either.
exactly. Yeah. No, there was no smart mouth women. Nothing
No.
like that. Good God. Thank God I was born when I was born. Because of all this stuff, we're seeing the rise of suicides in gay, lesbian, transgendered, bisexual youth. Number one cause of death for gay, lesbian is suicide.
Yeah. What was it? I mean, transgender, 40% of all transgender attempt suicide.
30%, yeah, 30% of all gay youth attempt suicide at the age of 15, by the age of 15. 30%. We're not talking about, okay, if we figure that, okay, the general consensus is around 10% of the population is gay. Now, what I find funny, it's like when you look up statistics, actually do this, Google it when you're done watching this, just to have a good laugh. Christian statisticians say that only 5% of the population is gay. But I thought that they could cure it.
Yeah, right?
So why would you even say that? Anyway. So...
Oh, pre-treatment gay.
Yeah, exactly. So there isn't any kind of blood test they do for that. That's self-reporting. So obviously, if a Christian is out there saying, hi, God bless you, are you gay or straight?
Yes.
You're not going to say you're...
Well, it's actually, are you straight or a sinner?
Yeah, probably the question.
It's probably, yeah.
Yes. Are you a sodomite or a... Yeah. What would they call a lesbian? I don't know. Anyway, so obviously the numbers are skewed. We know that, the general population, the Gallup poll actually asking people how many in whatever, how many people they thought were gay. Most people think 1 in 5 people are gay, which would make it 20% of society, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Kinsey says, the sex researcher, basically had it at 10%. Okay? They think the number's a little bit slightly below that. So like 9 point something. But around 10%. Kinsey's pretty much right on the money. We, though, as people, as the American society, we think it's 20%. Which is interesting.
Yeah.
Because then you got to go, okay, who's right here? Is it somewhere between 10 and 20? And if so, then when you're talking about 30%,
yeah, at
of
that
them,
point, start doing the math. You got
30% of the, let's say 15 to split the difference.
Okay, so
15% of the population.
Right, there's, what, 1 billion? Well, no. How many people in the
700 million.
700 million? Okay. Bit less than a billion. People. So 15% of them, and then 30% of that.
That's a lot of people. That's millions of people.
Yes, this is a huge
millions of people
epidemic.
And for all the ones that we see with the videos on YouTube that commit suicide, for all the ones that are publicized, there are millions that aren't. Millions. And, we're crushed. We're like, oh my God, a little. So if they succeed, we're crushed as a society. It's like, oh, wow. And we do all those videos about it getting better. But it's not getting better because then you have places like, what is it, Minnesota? Where's Michelle Bachmann from? No, I forget. Some place like that. Where they won't even pass anti-bullying laws. Now, understand what bullying is. Bullying is a sanctioned form of heteronormativity.
Yes.
We're not getting rid of bullying anytime soon because of heteronormativity. The idea of keeping people in line starts very early. Okay? If you do not walk the line, if you are not, the cheerleader or the jock or someone integrated in that cone of, and that lump, then you are going to be bullied to get back into the fold. And it doesn't matter whether you're gay or straight doing that. Gay kids, straight kids, they both get bullied. Okay? And, gay kids could actually say that they get bullied born, but the reality is it doesn't, the you have more straight kids getting bullied because they're not acting right.
Yeah.
Okay? And then the gay kids who get bullied, that's just, that's frosting on the cake because they actually caught one.
Mm-hmm.
So that bully, because they have more to lose. Because they know that if anybody really found out what was going on with them, they wouldn't be accepted.
Right.
And we sanction that. And this is why you have what you have out there. This is why so many kids are killing themselves. Because we're allowing that.
Mm-hmm.
We can't really stop kids from bullying. Yeah, we could do all these things. But the moment that a teacher says to a kid...
More than allowing, we're condoning it.
Yeah.
Because, passive...
acceptance
is acceptance.
Yeah.
It's... And this goes across the board with everything. We all know that, kids do what the parents do.
Right. So if the dad is at home calling somebody a fag or that's so gay,
right.
The message is loud and clear.
Boys don't play with dolls. Boys don't, and the rules on how a boy acts and how a girl acts.
Right.
Even
if a girl plays sports, she's a tomboy.
Yeah.
Now, that sounds all very nice and cutesy kind of term.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is that hearing that word, you're being called a boy.
Yeah.
Now, I was called a tomboy when I was growing up. I didn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like, because there's a certain judgment behind that. Mm-hmm. That you're not acting like a girl. Right. That girls don't act like that. And it's that gentle nudge to be pushed back into the middle. Mm-hmm. And to, girls play with dolls. It's like, well, Lee didn't like dolls. I found them boring. Mm-hmm. That's not very girl-like, is it? Whereas a guy, if he cries at a game or something, a boy cries at a game, he's sensitive.
Yeah.
What do you think what's the message there?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're different. Different is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Know that. Right. And a society that treasures normalcy, being sensitive and being different is bad.
And sensitive is a nice way
of being,
because
not a pussy or gay or whatever.
Exactly, yes. Butch up.
Yeah, suck it up, butch up, don't be such a fag.
Yeah.
That's what they say. Mm-hmm. And we're not talking out of turn. This is really what we're saying. Mm-hmm. And this is to straight kids. Mm-hmm. Statistically, it's mostly to straight kids. But then those few times that you say that to a gay kid, they're going to take that a little bit harder. Mm-hmm. Why is that? Because they're not straight. And they know that the moment that anybody knows who they are inside, who they are understanding they are, then you're not going to accept them. And society is not going to accept them. And yes, we can make those videos, and and I really appreciate the Trevor Project doing it gets better.
It's brilliant.
I think it's it does get better.
Right.
Because then you get out of that time where people are so narrow-minded and so afraid of being anything other than normal. That, you're going to find people that are going to accept you. Mm-hmm. But for that time, that horrible time where everything has to be normal, I can't imagine. Yeah. I can't imagine. I mean, I can imagine from my own perspective of going through my teenage years. And by the way, Hollywood, if you're watching this, don't make any more movies like that. My teenage years were my best years. Who the hell are you talking to?
Not me.
You want to do a movie? Go back to my 20s. 20s was fun. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But teen years? Get the hell out of here.
These were nuts. Yeah, you need a whole
the only ones who really found them fun were the bullies.
Yeah,
okay?
Exactly. Yeah, you need a whole movie of all of us geeks and the fringe population, because apparently that's all that was in high school, because I don't know anybody right now who identifies himself as anything other than that.
Than fringe?
Yeah.
Well, because I think that in the end of everything, they're all fringe because there is nothing normal.
Yeah.
You see, we all have this concept of what normal is in high school. And I'm sorry, this goes back to, John Hughes doing his Pretty in Pink and breakfast clubs and all that stuff. And I think that the Breakfast Club actually taught us that there was no normal there. You had the princess, you had the jock, you had the nerd, you had the psycho, and you had the criminal.
Right.
And none of them considered themselves normal. None of them considered themselves walking that line in the middle, even though technically, we would think that the princess and the jock were the normal ones, but they're not. Statistically, they're not. If you look at statistics, what would be normal? Normal would be the weird kid. Because there's more weird kids in high school than there are the jocks and the princesses.
Yeah.
So we were the normal ones. How's that for weird?
Yeah, who knew?
Who knew? My idea of high school was reading. I read, I must have read thousands of books a year. Because that's what I like doing.
Yeah.
And honestly, talking to anybody, just bleh.
I would have talked to you.
I know you would have talked to me. You would have talked to me.
I was busy reading too.
And programming computers for prom.
Computers, yeah.
Okay, there's normal and there's normal.
Yeah, well.
Not normal at all. So.
Hopefully useful.
Yes. See, because he was not normal in high school, we could do things like this.
That's right. Became useful.
It became useful. See, that's translating into something useful. So, I don't know. I guess the reason why we wanted to do this is because of all this stuff in politics and, and the people making these, widespread decisions are so removed from the reality of what's going on, and that the idea of, keeping marriage sacred and all that, when they say things like that, how ugly it is what they're saying. And they don't understand that. And how this incredible focus on sex and wondering what people do in their bedroom has nothing to do with equality. Absolutely nothing to do with equality. It's about love. And it's about who you fall in love with. We're not talking about, they've already got rules about having sex in bathhouses, and they have rules about sodomy in Texas, and they have rules everywhere, condemning the sex part. But now they're actually going after the love part, which I find really sad.
Yeah, see, one of the reasons why we decided to write this is because of all of that, it's forced us to become advocates. And I didn't really want to be an advocate. I didn't really want to be in support of much of anything. I mean, I don't really care, who sleeps with who in their bedrooms, what consenting adults do. I'm one of those. So when it became this issue where suddenly the right to love was being, is become a political issue and is actually a debate, now I have to become an advocate.
Right, because coupledom in general, I mean, we write about relationships, but we're not pro-marriage. And we like to say that very clearly. We are not pro-marriage. We are pro-happiness. We are pro-love, healthy love. Okay? And if you're having a healthy marriage, fantastic. But we are pro-love, healthy love. So in whatever way you create that, we're pro that. Now, between two consenting adults.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that we throw in there, mainly because There is, like, those stupid groups like NAMBLA and stuff like that who are just gross. But that's all. I mean, it only takes a warped mind to think that if we gave equal rights to everyone in terms of marriage, that we would end up marrying goats and children.
Yes.
That takes a warped mind.
Mm-hmm.
That takes...
To make that leap.
First of all, goats can't consent, and children can't either.
Yeah.
That's against the law. Okay? But it takes a really sick mind to think that that's really where it would lead to. Mm-hmm. Because all they're focusing on, once again, is the sex.
Right.
And it's not about the love anymore. Mm-hmm. It's like, and if we just, and I'm speaking straight now to the old white Christian guys. If you stop thinking about sex for 5 minutes, maybe you could see what you're doing.
Yes.
Maybe you could see that this is a civil rights violation. Mm-hmm. But since you're so focused on what 2 adults are doing in the bedroom, or on the couch, or in the bathroom, wherever, you can't see the big picture.
Right. So what's happened?
And according to society, married people don't have sex anyway. So go ahead and let them get married.
Yeah, we've had all kinds of shows about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we get that question all the time.
Yeah.
What do you do to have... Just have sex.
Yeah. So bottom line is, at this point, we're advocates. And we're advocating, we do believe in same-sex and opposite-sex marriage.
Yes.
And same-sex
marriage
and
equality.
Love.
How about this? I would actually restrict young people from getting married.
Yeah, right. I mean,
if you want to really get into,
yeah.
If you really want to get into marriage equality and to the right to marry, I would limit marriage between minors or marriage for people under the age of 21.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You can't get married until after you're 21.
Right. Yeah.
Why? Because then we would actually cut our divorce rate in half. If we did. See, that's a rule that you should be thinking about, old white Christian men. That's the rule that you should be thinking about. Okay? You really want the sanctity of marriage? That would be the rule that you would need. Mm-hmm. I just said something brilliant. I'm going to write about this now. So, in the meantime, please read coupledom.com. We've got... this week was about what? I don't even remember.
Oh, mental health?
Oh, yeah. This week was about mental health.
Yeah.
Last week was about anger. So next week's show topic is about anger.
Yeah.
Not anger management.
No, just anger.
Just anger.
We're going to show you how.
We're going to show you how to get angry.
Yeah.
And the difference between, how messed up it is to talk about anger management. Because you don't need to manage your anger. You just need to understand that anger doesn't condone violence.
No.
Period. Anger is a secondary emotion. And we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah.
And if you have anger issues, come on by.
Yeah, that's right.
I've actually, just to give you a little background, I actually created an anger management program for Florida.
Yeah.
So I kind of know a little bit about anger.
Yeah. Right.
Just a teeny bit.
Yes.
And also, I get angry.
No.
Yeah, I've been known to.
Never.
Yeah. And even gnash my teeth and everything. Stuff like that. So, if you joined us, thank you very much. Mm-hmm. Come back next week where we'll be talking about all this fun anger stuff. Catch us on coupledom.com. And you can watch us again on our YouTube channel, Coupledom 1.
That's it.
So, thank you. Have a wonderful week.
Bye.
Bye.